Who's the TM to?
Vince.
What's the thing? So I guess we'll find out.
Secret.
It's in the same thing.
There goes Maria. She's on it.
I have it.
So I would like to call this meeting to order and introduce our new club president, William Austin.
Hey.
Thank you, Marie. This is my first meeting as our new president. I'm going to go through the checklist for now, but I promise I will have this memorized. So out of the corner of my eye, I see the flag. First thing we do is, if you would like to, please join me in doing our pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, I'm going to go to our invocation timer. Who has our invocation timer roll today?
Chad.
Vince, can you move my slide?
Oh, sure, of course.
There we go. Do we have an invocation timer today?
We did have one. It's Chad. I guess he's not here. Is there anybody who would like to fill in? Leah.
Leah.
Oh, okay. So let's do a quote. So I'm a little late to this, but I just signed up for the skin, which is like a summary of the news. So here's the quote of the day. Unwitting federal criminals. Federal judge for... Yeah, that's not okay. Just showing up is half the battle, so we're all here.
I like it. Thank you. Next, we move to welcoming our guests. I have two of them. Would you like to stand up and tell who you are, or would you like to pass on that?
Sure, you can definitely tell who we are.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Alexis, and I am here as a guest for the first time on a referral of one of my candidates, and I am an IT recruiter here, and a little bit about the process.
And I'm Harris Coleman. I am supporting her and also work with her as well as an IT recruiter. And I'm learning more. So, we'll see.
And what company do you work with?
Infinity Consulting Solutions. Yeah.
Thank you. Welcome to join us.
Thank you.
And Drew.
Hi, I'm Drew Anderson. I work for SDG as well. I'm a software developer in the Microsoft practice. I was referred by someone.
Next, we move to the meeting minutes.
Mr. President, fellow TechMasters, minutes from last week's meeting. It was the last meeting of the Vince Bollinger reign and the regime, right, coming into the Austins and limits. The word of the day was felicitous. We had one guest, Subaraj, and we had one member, Tyler, who was voted in. The Toastmaster was myself. We had two speeches. Vince spoke on the case against fixed rate work, and William, you spoke on coffee. The word picture went to myself, the wise old owl went to Leanne, the best speaker went to William, the best evaluator went to Katie, the spark plug went to yourself, William, and our fuzzy mouse went to Katie. There were a number of announcements, but that's the business of last week.
Thank you. Next on the agenda would be old business. Do we have any old business?
I don't believe there's such a
Mr.
thing.
President, the old business is solely brought up by the current president, and if they don't have anything, then it will not be brought up.
I do not have any old business. Moving on to the next point. New business. Three? No new business. Moving on to the next. Announcements. Are there any announcements? Vic.
Mr. President, as you well know, we have agreed to host officer training on August 9th. So we will be hosting it at our normal club time, except that we'll be starting at 7:30. So if you are a current officer, guess what? You get to be trained in one fell swoop. You don't have to go finding a place to go train. And if you're a member, come anyway. It's going to be fun. You're going to learn new people. You're going to learn new things about different roles.
Thank you, Dan. As well, the TLI is something that Vince has been talking to me about frequently. It is where he got one of the ideas for our speechcraft contest, which turned out to be very successful and helped out membership. So the TLI is the 23rd of July.
Yep.
Correct? I'm planning to make that. I'm hoping that somebody from the officers as well as the members make it as well.
Yes. Mr. President, last year I went because I was a new president and kind of wanted to get the whole Toastmasters experience there. And I ended up getting a free speechcraft kit. So not only to Will, but anybody who wants to go, pay attention to all the booths and everything and go talk to everybody. And I got a free high performance leadership kit. I got a free speechcraft kit, and I got a whole bunch of tips and packets and stuff and learned a ton. And I tried to do my best to apply that to the club last year.
Thank you, Vince. As I said before, I have some very big shoes to fill.
11. Pretty big for 5'8".
So with that, I'm going to turn it over to today's Toastmaster. Our Toastmaster, you probably all know him. He has been a very active member of the club, as well as our past president. Please welcome me, and please help me welcome Vince Bowling.
Thank you, Mr. President. Stand up myself. All right. So, a few things here. Oh man, I don't have a clicker. It's gonna be awkward. Okay. So, you can throw it. I'll plug in.
Do you want me to run the clicker?
Go ahead. Awesome. Wow, that's amazing. Trial by fire, Will. Okay. So we want. Oh, you didn't have any announcements or anything? You just didn't want to skip this part.
Yeah. We're going to catch those at the end. How about that?
Sure. Oh yeah. Okay. Keep going. Keep going. So then keep going.
I'm blaming your clicker now.
All right. Yeah. Why are you aiming it toward there?
There we go. There we go.
Okay, because it's right there, right? I don't know why you're aiming at me. We're sitting. So you didn't want to do this part either? You didn't want to do this part?
I guess you're the Toastmaster, so you're kind of here.
No, it's supposed to be part of
It's
this
not your
meeting.
Yeah, I'm going to let you do this one today.
Great, awesome.
Next week, I will take this.
Sure. Well, as the Vice President of Education, I can certainly grab the slide. Are there any updates to this? Anybody have a contact communicator or advanced speech data last week? Without hearing anything? Moving
I have a
along.
question.
Yes.
Does the number represent how many we have left?
Yes.
Got it?
So if it's inaccurate, please let me know. Also, I made a guess for chat, so I have no idea how many speeches you have left for your advanced speakers. I'll just put it in.
I'll get back to you on that.
Okay. That's done. Okay, so today's theme is responsibility. See, yeah, I may have stepped down from president, maybe I have less responsibility in the club, but I became an area director, which is basically kind of like a manager for a handful of clubs, and not this area because I don't live here. Whenever I mentioned that I would be interested in being an area director, they kept thinking I was going to be for this area. I'm like, no, I want to keep driving up to the Bloomington, Edina area. I live in St. Paul, like the far east side of St. Paul, almost Woodbury. Send me over there. So they did decide to do that. And I've taken on actually not a whole lot of responsibility in general, but to begin the year, I have to take on a ton of responsibility. I've had to visit several clubs. I have 6 clubs to visit. Typical is 4, 5, or 6. Not only do I have 6, but then they chartered one already, so now I have 7. And so I have to visit all these clubs, do a little report on each of them, and try to work with all the presidents to see how they can improve the club. And I learned a lot about how to do that whilst I was president this past year. So I think I have a lot to talk. But beyond that, after I get set up with the area contest and the area training and everything, then I won't have a lot to do for several months. Actually, in my opinion, will probably overall be quite a bit less work than being president. So I wanted to not only start off with something interesting, but maybe instead of just saying like July or Christmas in July or something like that, something interesting that was kind of in my life. So that's today's thing. So first off, we're going to go with the court jester. Who's today's court jester?
That's me.
All right, Leanne, could you tell us something hopefully pertaining to our theme? Go ahead.
How do you tell an introverted computer scientist from an extroverted computer scientist? An extroverted computer scientist looks at your shoes when he's talking to you.
And hadn't heard that one in at least a few days. Thanks for reminding me. Our next role is the 1-minute Toastmaster. Today's 1-minute Toastmaster is Marie. Marie, could you please give us a 1-minute tip about how to get the most out of our Toastmasters experience?
So the Toastmasters magazine is really good. This month's July had a really good really good statement about describing some of the fallacies about speaking. Some of the ones we've heard that are ridiculous is imagine your audience naked. I can't imagine something that would make me feel less comfortable speaking than imagine my audience naked. But another one is that old saying that tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them again, which really kind of assumes that your audience is idiots. Especially in TechMasters, our audience are not idiots. So we do not need to repeat ourselves over and over. So some better advice, as mentioned in the Toastmaster magazine, instead of going back through those fallacies and just repeating yourself, is to tell them like you mean it, and tell them so they get it the first time.
So that's a lot of responsibility put on to the person who's giving a presentation. All right, the next role today is the grammarian. We like to work on a lot of different things, not just our prepared speeches, but we have the prompted speaking. We like to give immediate feedback with evaluations. Another important part of getting better as a speaker is improving your vocabulary and using proper language constructs and eliminating filler words. Here to talk about both of this, Katie.
Well, the theme of this meeting is responsibility, and in that light, I was able to find a bird-related word related to responsibility. So, of course, how could I resist? And the word of the day is albatross. And an albatross, apart from being the bird and apparently something to do with golf, is a burdensome responsibility, almost an obligation. It comes from the late 16th century Alcatraz. So the Alcatraz prison, same root word, relates to the word white. So you can say, as an example, an albatross of a marriage. And I will be watching your so's, ahs, you knows, likes, reallys, and other verbal pauses, as we call them.
Great, thank you. Today's timer. Are we going to stick with Clea then? Looks like it. Seems like the original one. Clea, would you like to tell us about your role as timer today?
Yes. So as timer, I will be using these archaic little flags to tell you when you are right on time, so right on time, getting close to overtime, and overtime. For table topics, let's say, try to say 10 minutes to a minute and a half, and speeches are anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes. So keep that in attention. Thank you.
All right, one more time for table topics. All right, Eric, yes. Eric got back to me on a theme today. Said I basically asked people to tell me about a time when they gained a lot of responsibility. And Eric tells me that the first thing that came to his mind was that when his first son was born. He said it really didn't set in that he was going to be a dad and how much responsibility he had until he actually had to hold it, care it, feed him, and realize just how happy it made him feel. So here to take us through the impromptu portion of our meeting, Eric Holbrook.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster and fellow TechMasters. Table topics is the portion of our meeting where we practice our impromptu speaking, and I have created a series of questions to kind of help us go through that. First, to start off, is there anybody or who's speaking today has a major role? Okay. Great. Well, let's start in the front with Leanne. Leanne, can you describe something that you think people should take more responsibility for and why?
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. The thing that comes to mind this morning is to be more responsibility in how people drive. In terms of following protocols like staying in the right lane if you're going slower, being helpful with letting people in, thinking about, again, being helpful and polite when you're driving. Given my experience driving here this morning, that's what comes to mind. Thank you.
a movie or TV show where someone tried to dodge responsibility and were they successful?
Thank you, Mr. TechMasters Master.
That's why we do it.
The question that you asked had to do with maybe an example, scenario in film or television where someone dodged responsibility. Although I can't think of anything approaching that right now, thanks, Brain, it does remind me of I'm sorry, I messed up. Thanks.
Jesse, if you organized and led a group of people in a peaceful protest, what would the message be and where would you organize this protest responsibly?
Where would I organize this protest? I love Florida. Florida has great weather. I like it a little bit hot and sticky. My parents are down in Florida right now, or actually not right now, but they were, and they come back to work. And it seems to be less and less months, but the time goes on. I'd say Florida for the place, and I think that a lot of the people that I go down there with, I sit in hot tubs with really super old people who have actually a lot to say, always, and usually pretty good advice. And a lot of times what they tell me is, don't worry so much about making money, don't worry so much about spending time on things that make you a better person, so to speak. Put your time in your kids, make memories, good advice like that. So I think Florida would be a great place for getting. Thank you.
Thank you. Marie, in the security industry, in security research, there is something called responsible disclosure when people find a vulnerability and reporting it to the people who can fix it. What do you think is a reasonable amount of time to allow an organization to respond to a known threat?
Thank you, Mr. TechMasters. That's really a good question because it varies depending on the system or piece of software that is found to be vulnerable and how long it takes to create a fix and deploy that fix. You could look, for instance, at Microsoft's example over the years, going back a decade or more ago. They were pretty slow to fix things, and people started releasing these exploits in the wild and saying, look, if they won't fix them, we'll make an exploit. A really good one, a really good example was done by Loft Heavy Industries, which is a hacking collective that tried to illustrate an issue with their hashes, and they said, well, this is theoretical. And so they released a tool that did it, making the theoretical possible. And so it depends. There are certain infrastructure and certain systems that lives depend on. A couple that come to mind include some of our critical infrastructure as well as medical devices. But then again, I think that some disclosure, sometimes companies will drag their feet, and it takes disclosure to actually get movement on it. There's some good examples like some of the completely abysmal security of home routers, home Ethernet routers, and it's taking disclosure. And these researchers have tried to work with the vendors to say, these people's home routers are open and they can't actually be fixed. And it started to create a little bit more discussion around what makes sense, what doesn't, and pushing companies to actually secure things whenever it's possible. Thank you, Mr. Cable.
That's a great response. Thank you. Mike.
I'm a speaker today.
Oh, you are speaking today. Okay. Will, do you want to?
I'll take a shot.
Okay. Well, 66% of small business owners say that they are seeking to establish or improve their corporate social responsibility and efforts, while only 50% of enterprise executives feel that same way. Can you think or give an example of a company that has demonstrated good social responsibility as an organization? And why?
Thank you, Mr. Tabletop Master. This is a deep, thought-provoking question. However, I'm going to deflect minorly, and I'm going to answer something similarly. There was a book I read many years ago called Freakonomics. And in Freakonomics, one of the stories is about how a person who brought coffee into these Wall Street offices and had one of those, hey, on your honor kind of coffee. You put the money in and you get the coffee on your own. What he noted was that the people who had maybe the most money weren't always honest with the coffee cup, but the smaller offices with 10 people who probably watched every dime were always right on and accurate and honest. And this is something that struck me when I was reading this book about how businesses, it seems like the bigger they get, they kind of forget the important things. And so when you asked me that question, that was the story that came into my head. So I wanted to share that. And I had another instance that I was going to relate, but I have since lost it. So I'm going to wrap it up with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Chad?
Yeah.
Would you like to?
Sure.
Chad, as a member of TechMasters and Toastmasters, it's our responsibility to participate in the meetings. What is your favorite part of participating in TechMasters, or favorite role in participating?
My favorite role at Toastmasters is Table Topics Master. I've been in Toastmasters for a few years, and I'm just with our club here. And when I did in the past, I loved being the Table Topics Master because you could come up with some really creative questions. And I also liked, within that creativity, to have some more easy questions for people who might be new, but then some more advanced, more creative types of questions for more advanced answers. So throughout my experience, I think Table Topics Master is definitely the best role.
I believe that concludes our table topics portion. Hand it back over to our Toastmaster. Thanks.
All right. Next, we have a break. We'll have a 5-minute break. Go stop, schmooze amongst yourselves. Take a 5-minute break and talk to each other, get some coffee, bathroom, whatever it is. And if you get the speakers, evaluators, and general evaluator up front, that'd be great.
So just about like I showed in the video, right?
Yeah.
Since I'm president, it's a little bumpier than when Vince does it, but it's my first time. Right? I'll get
Morning.
I finally got my new member. Yeah. So Vince had I'm giving this one back.
We'll just put it right back in. Podium. Not podium. Lecture.
It's frustrating.
The roadmap to agree. You like it's my speech.
There we go. You're not. Oh, that's right.
Thank you very much. That one's a little HTML. I said.
Obviously, I was a little late, but.
So I was drafted in this work, so I go transition, so, yeah, so I reverse engineer. So, who's my William, and that's all I did. I will. I'm sorry. Yeah, so it was. That's a good. I'll just say it was a system that used to.
So in addition to that, what I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah. I've got North and Center Wi-Fi. Well, it's over. North and Center Wi-Fi. Yeah, it's it's really. I'm working it. Actually. I just want to masters. And it's like I come to this one and said.
Go ahead now.
Oh, you're so we take care of this.
Actually, during the week. Yeah.
I have a candidate who lives in Wisconsin.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
Yeah, so.
It's kind of a weird vibe in there too.
I need to buy some.
And,
No, like.
Talk to the GE.
just,
Like,
Jennifer,
wasn't even Pokemon. Did you heard of it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got hackers too. There's like.
I know. Yes. Yeah. But it's, I mean, it's only been out, it's been out for less than a week.
session then.
Stock is still
Okay.
sky high.
We have a couple of speakers today. Thank you to Mike for stepping up and giving an impromptu speech. But Our first speaker today is Gwen Riedel. Gwen had also responded to my request for an introduction, and she said that when she thinks of the word responsibility, the idea of self-responsibility comes to mind. She believes that we create our own realities with our thoughts and actions. A friend of hers that feels the same way sent her a really good birthday card, she says. It said, I believe that we create our own realities. But what the hell was I thinking? So, create our own reality. Like, whoa, what was that? She said that she takes that to mean that even though she believes it, very often she doesn't really quite get what she wanted and doesn't quite turn out the way she hoped. So please help me welcome Gwen Riedel, speaking on the roadmap to your dream.
Good morning, fellow Toastmasters.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Are you living the best possible life for you? Is there anything that you would like in your life that you don't currently have? What if I were to tell you that in the next 5 to 7 minutes, I'm going to share with you 6 easy steps to make your dreams come true? Would you be willing to go along with me?
Yes.
All right. So today, I'm going to share with you the roadmap to your dream. It's 6 easy steps. Now, when I say easy, I don't mean quick, and I don't necessarily mean that it won't take some work on your part. But I do believe that by using these steps, you can achieve whatever you want if you're willing to put in the work. My presentation will include 6 steps to the roadmap. I'll also share some tools along the way that you can use, and also I'll share some stories that illustrate what it may look like as you're on the road to your dream. So here are the 6 steps. It all starts with a clear and compelling vision. Then it's also very important to know yourself. Create a plan, implement the plan, evaluate and recalibrate along the way, and then celebrate. That's it. The first step is to create a clear and compelling vision. This means to have a clearly defined goal. Great teachers tell us we can achieve anything as long as we can conceive it. So as long as we're flexible about the form, but clear about the vision, we can achieve it. I have an exercise you could use sometime on your own. In fact, you may want to get a piece of paper and a pen out to take notes while we're going along, as you may have ideas that spring to mind as we're talking. But on your own, you may want to try this simple exercise, and it's to create a metaphor of your vision. So think about if you were to draw a picture of your dream, what would it look like? As an example, a few months ago, I had a coaching client and we were talking about his career goals, and I asked him what his career goal was. Well, at the time, they were laying off people in the company, so he sarcastically said to me, well, I'd like to have a job. I said, well, really, what's your dream? And he said, I really would like to be an expert in my field. And I'd like to have the highest designation this company affords anyone. But the shortest time period that anyone's ever achieved that designation is 20 years. And I said, okay, is that really what you want? He said, yes. I said, okay, we just planted the seed. And he stopped and he said, I really like that metaphor of a seed. He said, do you know what they say, how long it takes, when's the best time to plant a tree? I said, no, what? He said, 20 years ago. And then he said, you know when the second best time to plant a tree is? I said, no. He said, right now. We planted a tree together. So can you see the metaphor that's emerging for him in his vision? That's an example of how to use a metaphor to create your clear and compelling vision. The clearer we are about our vision, the easier it is to accomplish. Also, it helps influence our decisions and the decisions we make day to day that ultimately create our reality. The next step is to know yourself. Self-awareness is essential to leading others and to leading a successful life. There are many wonderful tools to use to gain insight about yourself, and they're too numerous to mention here, but if you have any interest in this, see me afterwards and I'd be happy to talk about it with you. And just like Vince said in his introduction to me, I do believe in self-responsibility. You are the driver on the road of life. And there may be detours and potholes along the way, but it's up to each of us to navigate our own road of life. Simply put, the more aware you are of your own predispositions and the better you know yourself and your impact on others, the better off you are. Now, once you've taken some time to reflect on your life, understand your values, identify your priorities, the next step is to create a plan. And I have a very simple method for you to use to create your plan. It's called the 1-2-3 method. The 1 stands for 1 development goal. So choose one thing that would have the most impact on your life. And then 2 action steps towards that goal. And 3, identify 3 times that you will follow up with yourself to make sure that you have accomplished it. For example, let's say in Toastmasters, your one thing is that you want to tell stories more effectively. That's your one thing. Your 2 actions may be you make a point of telling a story in each of your prepared speeches, and you tell a story at each of your client meetings. Those are 2 actions. And then do you have a Toastmaster buddy or an accountability partner that you can follow up with later and check in, or even just block time on your calendar once a quarter to make sure that you have done some self-review. Now that you've planned the work the plan. So implementing the plan is the next step. You will need to make adjustments along the way. That's just life, that's part of it. So you'll need to evaluate and recalibrate as you go along. Because as you know, life is not a straight line. It does have potholes and detours along the way. And when you reach a milestone, celebrate. Don't wait until the end. Celebrate the minor accomplishments along the way. It's really important to do that if you have a big goal. So there you have it. An easy to understand formula for achieving your dream. It includes creating a compelling vision, knowing yourself, creating a plan, implementing the plan, evaluating and recalibrating, and then celebrating along the way.
Thank you, Gwen. See, our next speaker, I guess, thank you, will be Mike. Mike has been a person with a good amount of responsibility in a club from the get-go. First and foremost, he is the founder of our club. And secondly, he this year is going to be stepping up as some kind of support person for the district website, I believe. And on top of that, another interesting piece of responsibility that he took on was to do an impromptu speech today when we had a speaker early. So please help me welcome him today, our second speaker, Mike Mankiewicz.
Thank you, Vince. Fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. Why are we here? What is it that got you up this morning, out that door, and brought you to a place where they say that what we teach here is how to deal with something that's worse than death? Yes. Speaking, public speaking, getting in front of people with that albatross around your neck of having to make some kind of sense about what it is you're trying to do, obviously, you must be crazy. One of those things where we think, okay, yes, just because the early bird may get the worm, it's that second mouse that gets the cheese. We are here to learn something. What is it to learn? Public speaking. How do you respond when you're put on the spot? Think about it. You're at work, or you're in front of a customer, or you're working on a project, or you get a call out of the blue and someone asks you a question. So why should I use C#? Grant? Dive right into it. Yes, it's a great language, but you think about it, it's table topics. It is table topics over and over again where we have that need to be able to respond impromptu, speaking on the spot. And fortunately, joining Toastmasters is one place where you can get that kind of practice every single week. If you don't have another role, you will be called on to do table topics. Eric today had some great questions around responsibility, where he put together all kinds of different things. But when you stand up and it's like, oh my God, I have to come up with an answer, and all of a sudden she rings the darn bell. It's like, what's that about? Throw me off my game. Well, if you back up and you look at table topics and you try to come up with a strategy for how I can take those table topics and turn it into a good speech, that is what I want to do today, is to give you some strategies and some ideas on how to deal with that table topic challenge, right? I'm going to stand up, I get a question off the wall, who knows what it is, defend cross-burning. Thank you for that question. So what do? First thing, repeat the question. Yes, did I hear that correctly? You want me to defend cross-burning because you think that cross-burning must be a good thing or a bad thing? It is a thing, or whatever. Step back, take a breath, and remember, what is the point of table topics? What is the goal of what we're trying to do? It is pretty simple. It is to create and respond with a mini speech. What's a mini speech? And we have an open, body, and close. We have a start of it, and we have an end of it, and we have stuff that fills in space in between. Secondly, it is to speak for 1.5 to 2 minutes, which means there's a minimum amount of time to speak in that response before you get done. Now, just because I know I have to fill that much air time between the start of my response, where I repeat the question, take a nice long pause, and look at the crowd, because I know that the timer starts immediately as soon as I say that first word, and I have to dive into something that is either going to give some sort of a profound answer. So how do I come up with a good answer? How do I work in some of these other things? Well, one is the word of the day. The word of the day is albatross today. It's a great word. I have this albatross around my neck. The albatross came down and, well, anyway, suppose you're out at sea and you're stuck in a life raft and the only thing you have is an albatross flying over you, waiting for something to happen. As you can see, working that word into your question, somehow relating the two might be a good approach to trying to take that to an answer. Second thing is you could relate maybe a particular word in the question. Cross. I'd like to put a cross. I went to cross the street to do something because I'm working with puns or trying to find some way to find some humor in that question. So table topics doesn't measure, did you answer the question directly as it was given to you? It measures how well you were able to craft something with it. So you can either answer the question directly, you can use someone else's question. I really like that other question about the albatross. You could also just change it, use a word from the question, direct it into something else that would really fit into how you want to work with it. But the whole idea is to take that approach and that play on words and turn it into something where we've got a real story. And now that's where we can really dive into things. I was speaking on DevOps last week at the .NET user group meeting. And the whole thing that was interesting about this was that day on Thursday was just kind of one of those days from, well, you know, those kinds of days where everything seems to go wrong. And I'm sitting at work and I've got a customer who's unhappy and I've got this challenge of trying to document what it is that we've been doing and how did we get to this spot. And I also had, my computer had just failed, and so I had to restart it, reboot it, reinstalled everything onto it, and had to create this entire mantra of things where usually I get up and I do this talk and I've got everything in place. I even have the demos all laid out and my demos weren't there. And so I went into Visual Studio to create them, and my toolbox where I put all the code snippets so I can just drag them up, they weren't there. And it's 5 minutes before my speech starts. And I've got to come up with some way to figure out how to deal with this. And so I go out to Visual Studio and I pull up and I put onto there my Visual Studio settings and I import them in thinking the toolbox stuff would be there. No love. While this is all interesting and whatever, it's just a story, but does the story actually tell a point that ties back to the question? And the other thing is when you're telling a story, it's easy to use up a lot of time that fills in how much time you have to give for table topics. The other challenge of trying to deal with distractions while you're doing your answer. In the Toastmaster Club that I was part of before I came here, we had a regular annual thing, which we called Heckler Day. Ah, yes. It's Heckler Day, first day on the Toastmasters, and they're throwing stuff at the speaker, and I'm like, this is interesting. But if you want to, we could try to work those kinds of things into our meetings. So talk about that and bring that forward. But the challenge is how do we respond when you're put on the spot with table topics? There are a lot of different strategies you can use, and hopefully I've given you a couple ideas that you can apply when you are called. Mr. Toastmaster.
Make sure that we get the click it, make sure, because we want to make sure that we can help our general evaluators. Slide that over to the general evaluator, please. Push it over. Oh, there you go. Got it. Move back. Thank you. All right. So before we move on any further, I wanted to introduce our general evaluator. So after we've gotten through our prepared speaking portion of the meeting, we then go to let's see. So let me give you 1 second here. I'm trying to remember. Oh, well, yeah. Jesse gave a totally unoriginal answer. All right, great. So I remember it off the top of my head. All right. So general evaluator. So now that we've gone through our prepared speaking, we're going to go through a lot of the evaluation portion. Not only are we going to evaluate the speeches that you just heard, but we're going to give a report on everything. Jesse also got back to me, and he too said that he was completely and totally irresponsible about anything and everything under the sun. Everything in his life, all of his relationships, all his money and everything, until he finally had a child and he realized, hey, guess what, I'm an adult. And to welcome, please help me welcome our general evaluator today, Jesse.
I didn't say that last piece, but the first piece. Anyways. All right, we're going to start off right away with me asking you to bow your head so we can vote on the best speakers. All right, so those of you who thought Gwen's speech on the roadmap to your dreams was the best, please raise your hand. Okay, and keeping your heads bowed. Those of you who thought Mike's speech on talking on topic was the best, please raise your hand. Okay, you may raise your heads. All right, now I'd like to call on the most important part of the meeting, which is the evaluations. And we have Clea evaluating Gwen and William evaluating Mike. Clea, if you could start us off with evaluating Gwen, please.
All right. Gwen, your title was Roadmap to Your Dream. And the purpose of this speech was to organize your speech. So just off of the purpose taken from our manual, I thought it was a fantastically well-organized speech. You set the stage by listing out exactly what you would cover. You went through that and you covered each individual point. You also started the speech in an engaging way, so everyone can relate to trying to achieve their dreams. Asking an open-ended question like that immediately draws in the audience, so kudos there. You also made the steps look easy, so that's not an easy feat. The steps are challenging and they are time intensive, but you made it seem like anyone could do this and it's really possible. So just on the slides, I thought the slides were really engaging. They gave us enough to look at, but not overwhelm us with having to read. So you were able to speak off of that.
And I really enjoyed the story, and that was a nice way to make us relate to how to go about some of these steps. As far as ways to improve, I thought it was a pretty solid speech, especially for being a fairly new member. I thought it was a really good speech. There was one long pause on slide 2. I think you were just kind of gather your thoughts. And then the second area I thought of improvement was the beginning. The first 3 slides were really robust. You went into details, you told stories, gave a lot of examples and a lot of information, whereas the last 3 I felt were skipped over kind of quickly. Now that could be due to time. You were right on the time mark at 7 minutes and 13 seconds. But moving forward, this sounds like a speech that could probably go a little longer than that, or figure out where you want to buffer some of your speaking points. Speech value, I thought was interesting. Obviously, it was well prepared and rehearsed, organized well. You had a captivating opening. Your body flowed smoothly, with the exception of that one transition. Your conclusion re-engaged all of us, and transitions were appropriate and helpful. So well done, Gwen. Thank you.
And next we have William evaluating Mike.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. Mike, I will be evaluating your speech today, which you told me was an impromptu. We had an open speaker slot, so Mike stepped in. One thing that you've taught me, Mike, is when you're evaluating speeches, look for intent, content, delivery. I've heard you shout this mantra out over and over and over. So that's what I'm going to use to evaluate you. Intent, you said, I'm going to speak about how do we tackle table topics? What are some strategies that we can use? Because I don't think everyone knows that there are, you don't directly need to answer the question. So that was your intent. And on your introduction, I thought you had switched gears on me and changed subject. And I thought we were going to talk about public speaking maybe in general, TechMasters in general. So I was rolling with that and I was looking for, okay, where's this body transition? But then you said, specifically, here's some strategies on how to handle table topics. And you said, one phrase that jumped out at me was when you said worse than death. This is something that people associate with something worse than death. Nice introduction, brought us in. Then I said, okay, we're back to table topics. When you said, the first thing you can do is repeat the question. Then I felt, okay, now we're done with the introduction. Now we're getting into the content of your speech. Repeat the question, great example, great thing to do. It helps solidify that, hey, did I really understand what your intention was? It makes us better communicators. Absolutely, repeat the question. And then after the body came, I was looking for the conclusion. You said the line, I've told you, and I said, okay, now we're wrapping up. We've hit the conclusion. You said, hopefully these are some strategies that you can use to better answer table topics. So you had your intent, you had your content, you had your delivery. Next, I'm going to move into things that I thought you did really well and a few things that I think you can improve on. The projector looked like it didn't cooperate with you. I thought we were going to have some visual aids, but you just rolled with it. Was the projector involved today? No. Okay. The good transitions. Again, I was looking for the introduction, body, conclusion, and when you were switching each, it was very clear when you did. You used real life stories. I refer to you as the hardest working man in software. You're all over the country. You use real life stories, and those make you more real to us. Now, something I think you can improve on, and this came to me from Paul Chiavetti, one of our older members, he would always say, tell me about the pain, show me the pain and how you relieved it. So if you were giving a presentation at the Dynamic User Group and you didn't have any Visual Studio snippets, tell me how that felt to you. Tell me how frustrated you were. Tell me what was going through your mind. Tell me about the looks on people's faces when they saw you had to deal with that. But I've seen you speak a lot, and I think today, even though this was impromptu, was the smoothest delivery that I've seen out of you. Your pacing was, and I'm a big fan of pacing. Your pacing was slow enough to be confident, but not too fast that I thought you were nervous. I thought your pacing was perfect. The only thing I can offer is move around the room a little more. You did a couple of steps left and right, but I think it would have been nice to get out. I know it's hard to get out behind the lectern, myself included, but move around the room. Get into people's space. Make sure you make eye contact. Make it personal for them. overall, I thought it was a great speech, impromptu, way to step up. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. It's not an easy thing to do impromptu, for sure. All right, so while we have the evaluators fresh in our mind, let's bow our heads again and vote for the best evaluators. For those of you who thought Clea was the best evaluator of Gwen, please raise your hand. Okay. For those of you who thought William's evaluation of Mike was the best, please raise your hand. Okay, thank you. All right, now it's time to turn it over to our timer, Clea, to give a timer report.
Okay. So to start with table topics, this would have been a great speech last week, so everyone would have been prepared for table topics this week. The only person who met their mark was Marie, and then Will, you were just shy of the appropriate time. So everyone was a little short. I think it was just, we needed to practice how to engage. Both Mike and Gwen's speeches were 7 minutes and 13 seconds. I forgot to time myself for evaluation, but William, you went a little over at 3:21, but I thought there was a lot of engaging points.
And next up, we have Katie, who came up with an amazingly hard word today to give the Word Picture of the Day award. Please.
Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator. So, today was a day of ums, and I saw a number, well, we have quite a lot of them. And there's another one. Thank you. As far as the word picture of the day goes, the word of the day, nobody used it. It made me very sad, except for Mike, who used it 6 times and made it for everybody else. Mike, in your speech, you also had a couple of you-knows or likes, a couple of colloquialisms. Everything was very smooth flowing, like William said, but watch out for those. Eric and Tyler and Jesse, lots of ums in your speeches during the introduction of table topics and during the, was that you, Vince? And during what I think of as the infrastructure of the meeting as opposed to the speeches. That was where I noticed the most pause words, the most filler words. A couple of so's out of people, a couple of ahs. Gwen, where are you? There you are. I noticed a couple of ands when you were going through the steps to go from step to step. You could cut those out. Otherwise, very well done. And that is about it.
All right.
That's mine.
It is yours to give.
Yes. And while I really liked Mike's extended analogy of the albatross, I think this has to go to Gwen for her wonderful picture of planting a seed that grows into a tree.
All right, we have another award, the Wise Old Owl, and I'm going to invite Eric up to give this out. Thank you for the table topics.
Thank you. So today I'm going to give this to Marie since she met the allotted time, and she also gave a great response on not really answering the question, but giving us an answer as to why social responsibility is a hard question to answer.
All right, now you have an award to give out for the visual, and I'm going to actually keep that one today, and we'll move right on to the awards for the best evaluator and best speaker now. So for our best evaluator, we have William, who evaluated Mike.
Take a shake.
All right. You don't get both.
Sorry.
Sorry. Okay. Good job. Sorry. All right, and for our best speaker, drum roll. So a brief evaluation, hard word today, that's always good. Great table topics. Responsibility, well, I don't have much to say about that as I'm getting back to you late and whatnot, other than obviously kids take up a lot of time. Other than that, I guess I'm gonna hand it back to our tech master today, Vince.
Thank you, Jesse. The last few things here for Toastmaster, I have a Spark Plug Award and a Fuzzy Mouse Award to give out. So we have a few extra awards here, and the Fuzzy Mouse Award. Now, remember, we are a technical club, and a lot of times we speak on technical topics. And sometimes other people in the room may not understand technical topics, even amongst other technical people. Let's pretend, no offense, Will, but let's pretend Will was some idiotic Java developer. Never stoop so low, but let's say he was then talking about Java, and then all of us other much more intelligent C# or whatever else developers couldn't understand what this weird low-tech moronic Java development type stuff was. But if you were able to describe it to us in such a manner that we could then understand his Neanderthalic view of the world, then maybe he would win the Fuzzy Mouse Award. Now, what we had today, we had fairly untechnical topics in general. But I felt that Marie actually went pretty deep, as she usually does, into security type concerns, and I actually like to give it to her. And for the Spark Plug Award, this is an award that we give to someone who adds the most energy and excitement to the meeting. And we definitely want to give some to people who are somehow making the meeting, kind of glue it together, or anybody kind of fills in and helps us out, make sure that we have a dynamic meeting. And I'd like to give it to Mike for stepping up and giving us a nice speech on the fly in an impromptu manner. So let's see. Obviously, we had a little bit of a shakeup when it comes to how we were running this meeting. We were typically upstairs. The room was used, so we came down here. It's technically bigger, not a whole lot of extra seating in general, though. And of course, we had to make do with this, but I think we pulled it all together. We got started on time, and everything happened the way it's supposed to be, and everybody helped out. I saw a few people down here setting up tons of stuff before I ever got here, so thanks for doing that. I think we pulled it all together very well. Seems that we have like 5 guests, and so that's very nice. Typically more along the lines of 1 or 2. Did we? I think we missed somebody here. Why don't you stand up, tell us who you are, what brought you here, and what you think.
Thank you. My name is Charlie. I actually found out about the meeting on meetup.com, and so I figured it would be a great time for me to learn how to speak. I've given presentations before on SQL Server. I'm a business intelligence developer here in the cities, and that's why I'm out here, to get rid of my arms.
Other things, I think we had good speech topics, we had good evaluations. I think the Toastmasters did a good job. And I think that Will did a pretty good job in general for the portion of this meeting he actually decided to take part in. And one thing I would like to mention is that in the past we had a fear of talking to the guests. And another thing is when people join, we had a fear of putting too much on them right away. And that kind of makes sense. Like somebody going, okay, we want to take it easy on them. We don't want to throw them into the fire and all that. But Toastmasters has a tried and true method that is wrong. You need to get them involved so that they actually feel part of the group. So first things, don't ask them. You want to tell us who you are? No, just say, stand up and say, hey, tell us who you are, what brought you here, and what you think, that sort of thing. Tell them to do it. They'll be happy about it. And then when they join, put them on the schedule to give their icebreaker in 2 weeks. All right, with that, I'm going to turn it over to our president, Will Austin.
Thank you, Mr. Bollinger. Next slide would be new business. Anybody have any new business? Not seeing hands. Announcements. Does anybody have any announcements? Business.
Mr. President, I had forgot to mention that we also had, I believe, settled, since I heard no objection from the president and from the vice president of public relations, that we will be having our club contest for our fall in August, and I think we said August 23rd. So I think that we should kind of set that aside. Our area contest will be sometime in September. I think Super sent this email, I can't remember. So we like to get the club contest done in August. And we had tentatively set it at the 23rd. So the fall contests are humorous and table topics. I'd like to do them all in one day, so spreading out over 2. And so what we need, luckily Jonathan Oman has been kind of preoccupied, but he set himself as a speaker already for that day. So we already got one of our speakers in the contest. I said, he'll find out that he's part of the contest eventually. But anyway.
What's the date of this contest?
August 23rd.
August 23rd.
So normal event, normal meeting time and everything, but we'll be doing our speech and table topics contest, humorous speech contest. I had told Jesse and Will that I was going to volunteer for a speaker, but I found out I can't because I'm an area director, and area directors can't do that for some reason, even if I'm not a director of this particular area, whatever. Anyway, so I can't. So we do need things like a chief judge, and we need a contest chair, and all this, that, and the other thing. So please tell me, especially as Vice President of Education, I'm supposed to be setting up the schedule. Tell me what you would like to do, because everyone's going to do something as quickly as possible, but certainly tabletop participants, speakers, and things like contest chair and chief judge would be of utmost importance. And if you check in your competent leader toward the back, one of the harder things to get is to do things like share a contest. So if you'd like to help get that done, so we can get going on our DCP this year, let me or Jesse, the Vice President of Public Relations person, or we'll know so we can get that on the schedule. Thank you.
Next week's Toastmasters. Does anyone have a schedule that can help me out with next week?
Yeah, hold on. Next week's Toastmaster is Tony.
Tony's not here today.
That's typical.
I will ping him, make sure he knows about it. Next item on the agenda is closing thoughts. Invocation timer, I'm gonna step in, fill in. Where's the book?
If your outflow exceeds your inflow, your upkeep will be your downfall.
All right, I'll bring today's meeting to an end. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, guests, for coming. I hope to see you all again.
Good work. Good work. Good job on your evaluation and for stepping up on the timer. Well, but stepping up to do it.